The Tertiary Education Trust Fund is an intervention agency of the federal government of Nigeria set up for the primary purpose of overseeing vital projects and manpower to bolster and render supplementary funding support for the tertiary education sector in the country at all levels. Established by an act of law, it is a major holding pillar for tertiary education in the country. Professor Suleiman Elias Bogoro is the executive secretary of Tetfund, who has inspired a paradigm shift for the agency through the implementation of an elaborate strategy for the institutionalization of research and development in Nigeria's universities, polytechnics, and colleges of education.
The ranking of the topmost, the Ivy Leagues of this world, universities. Cambridge, Oxford, Harvard, Yale, you can go on and on. I tell you, it has to do with the quality of research, particularly the faculty. You have to look at the quality of faculty. Those research equipment will be derelict if you don't have personnel that have capacity to operate them. From the professors, to the laboratory scientists, to the biometric engineers, depending on which area of discipline. That's why the terminologies are separate. You need them. The faculty is key. If you don't have, in many universities of today, they want to have a topmost world-rated professor is sought for to just come to a university for 1 week. He goes into a classroom with some student that have seen that person's publication, outcome of publications, and believe me, they will never be the same again.
In the previous edition of The Paradigm Shift, a case study was made on the impact of Tetfund's intervention at the FCT College of Education, Zuba. This edition of the program throws a spotlight on the Federal University, Lokoja, Kogi State, Nigeria, in order to examine how the agency has added value to quality education delivered by the university. Professor Olayemi Akinwumi is the Vice Chancellor of this esteemed institution. He gives the paradigm shift a succinct history of the university.
Federal University Lokoja is one of the universities that were established by President Goodluck Jonathan in 2011, and 12 universities in number. And the university commenced immediately after the establishment. We had the temporary site in the city. We call it a Dankulo campus. That was it's the takeoff site. We are still using the temporary site. Here is where this interview is taking place, is the permanent site. Gradually we are moving to the permanent site. The permanent site, we commenced movement last year, I guess. The former Vice Chancellor relocated to this place, and now we have relocated all the non-academic staff to the permanent site. We are preparing to relocate our students to this permanent site towards the end of this year. So presently, the structures are, most of the structures are ready, and as we see, 75% of the structures are Tetfund structure. So presently, we have 5 faculties. We have Faculty of Arts, we have Faculty of Education, we have Social Sciences, we have Management, and we have Sciences. So these are the programs we are running, and we are determined also to establish 2 additional faculties, Faculty of Engineering and College of Medicine.
Like most other institutions and organizations within the education subsector, the Federal University Lokoja has been faced with several challenges, many of which fall within the purview of Tetfund.
The major challenge is funding, and that is why we also, whether we like it or not, we must also attribute or thank the ASU for struggling to have Tetfund. So I don't know how university will have develop without Tetfund.
In what areas has Tetfund stepped up to bridge the infrastructure gap of the Federal University Lokoja? The Vice Chancellor explains.
Yeah, we have to give kudos to the Tetfund for assisting the university to train our manpower. As I talk to you, some of our junior colleagues, they are outside the country pursuing their masters and PhD. So kudos to Tetfund. And apart from that, the issue of conferences, without this type of Tetfund intervention, many of our colleagues will not have seen or even attend any international conference. And you know what it means. You can share ideas with other scholars from other disciplines. You can also use that opportunity to get necessary materials, literature that will be of assistance to the university. So the training aspect is, for me, a major achievement on the part of Tetfund. And talk about infrastructure too. It's another major achievement. Like I said, federal government cannot take over the responsibility of the universities alone. Tetfund has assisted in infrastructure. And like I say, I tell people, you understand that you go to any of the universities now, you think that they are universities of Tetfund. Everywhere, Tetfund, our temporary site here. Virtually all the buildings are, you see Tetfund intervention, special intervention, presidential intervention. Even as we talk here now, we have 75% of the buildings, even more than 75% of the buildings are by Tetfund intervention, left, right, and center. All these structures. Without the intervention, the Tetfund intervention, I don't know how the universities will look like today.
This university was established alongside 8 other universities in 2011. And upon that establishment, there was virtually nothing on ground for the university to start on. All what we had as at that time, through the assistance of the state government, was to give to the university one of the secondary schools as at that time, which the structures there were so dilapidated, and they were also structures that do not meet the standard of the university. And I recall that upon that establishment, Tetfund gave this university a take-off grant of 2.5 billion. And with that intervention, the university was able to remodel the present Senate and Council chambers we have at Adakolo campus. All the classrooms that we're having at Adakolo campus today were renovated and remodeled to meet the standards of classroom that university should use under that intervention. So also the library we're having there today was also renovated and remodeled through that intervention. As a matter of fact, all the structures we are having presently at Adakolo campus were all Tetfund funded projects. If I can give you a list of it, I've mentioned the Senate and Council chambers, the library, the ICT centers. We have the 3 stories building for professorial offices. We have a twin lecture theater. We have block of laboratories and classrooms. We have the entrepreneurship center. We have the faculty of science. We have the bursary departments and other offices attached. All these structures were fully funded through Tetfund intervention.
In terms of structures, the auditorium, because the university is growing, the auditorium at the takeoff site is courtesy of Tetfund. Lecture theaters, courtesy of Tetfund. We have just started new programs, Faculty of Management, Faculty of Education. The structures are through Tetfund. So these are specific issues that you go around and see all these structures. Except this building here, all the buildings from this roadside, they are all Tetfund.
If you come down to the permanent site here, this is where we are, this interview is taking place. This is the permanent site of the university, the Felele campus. Of course, when you are entering from the gate down to this place, the gate itself, all the structures you are seeing there, all the structures today were all Tetfund funded projects. So indeed, Tetfund interventions have truly assisted this university to come to where it is today, even though this is not the desired, we have not yet gotten to our desired point, but where we are today, I can 100% attribute it to the interventions of Tetfund.
The various interventions of Tetfund at this university have had a tremendous impact, to the extent of being literally transformative, especially for the ranking of the institution.
Recent webometric grading of universities, we were out of the 12 universities, we were 8 on the list. And with the development training here, our people taking opportunity of conferences, writing, doing their research and publication, we are now third on the list. Yeah, and before we came in, the ranking of all the universities in Nigeria, it was 78. Now we are now 35 in Nigeria. And you know, the webometric is not just, this is an international grading system. And they have things they consider. And we have people that have gone out and they have published their work, the research assistant, the research money that has been given, has actually assisted us in the grading system.
A lot of interventions that are coming from Tetfund. It's only through Tetfund we are able to survive as far as this university is concerned. There's nothing coming from anywhere. Tetfund, you go here, the right, the left, everything is Tetfund. And coming to the training, when it's called ESTD, the ESTD means all our senior staff being sent outside the country for master's program, and then for PhD programs. It's only through Tetfund. We have sponsored more than 100 of us since inception for PhD. More than 50 have come for masters here through Tetfund. And a lot of us who are training on conferences abroad, in US, in Canada, in Australia, we travel like that for conference. Even locally, we travel.
Coming up on the second part of Tetfund, The Paradigm Shift, we'll take a look at how the University of Lokoja is preparing to contribute to Nigeria's economy through improved education, research, and development. The Board of Trustees and Management of the Tertiary Education Trust Fund cordially wish to inform the general public that the third edition of the fund's Taxpayers Forum has been scheduled as follows. Date 12 August 2021. Venue Continental Hotel, Victoria Island, Lagos. Time 10 a.m. The forum, which is an avenue for formal interaction and strengthening of partnership with education taxpayers nationwide, is aimed at enlightening taxpayers on the trends of collection as well as showcasing the judicious utilization of education tax on projects and programs in Nigeria's public tertiary institutions. Kindly note that attendance to the event is strictly on invitation and all COVID-19 protocols will be observed. However, there would be a live broadcast of the event on NTA Network. Announcer Professor Suleiman Elias Bogoro, Executive Secretary, Tetfund. Welcome back to The Paradigm Shift. One of the most important objectives of Tetfund, especially within the vehicle of the Paradigm Shift, which seeks to institutionalize research and development in Nigeria's higher education to begin with, and ultimately in society at large, is the improvement of the quality of the faculty.
All our junior colleagues that are qualified have been given the opportunity to travel, to take advantage of the training. Many of them are outside the country now as we speak. Many of them are doing their own locally as we speak. And in fact, after this interview, we are going for another meeting to nominate or to select those of our colleagues that are qualified for the next training opportunity.
Academic staff members of the university have benefited from numerous Tetfund-sponsored faculty improvement programs. These are their stories.
I was sponsored in 2012 for a conference in Europe, which is in Italy, in order for me to be able to finish up my PhD program at that time, because I got hooked at one point. I cannot move forward. And then my supervisors told me the only way out is to travel and have more experience on that particular field so that I can come back home in order to finish all the program. And then with the help of some Professor Massimo Aaron Rose, all of them from Italy, I was invited, in which I now put the application through the Tetfund, and then I was sponsored. And then I traveled to Europe, came back, and then the whole thing concerning my PhD work came off successful.
Okay. Actually, the first benefit Tetfund support was in my master's program with UNN, University of Nigeria in Nsukka, which I concluded in 2015. Then the second one was on my PhD. That was 2019-2020 Tetfund support. Yeah, within the country, it actually cushioned the stress and the acquisition of materials that enable me to succeed, especially in the field work during the master's level. In the international level, it also cushioned a lot for me, though it came late, but it actually went a long way for me because my field work was a kind of a thorough one. I actually worked on sustainability strategies on electronic information resources within the North Central. And being outside and trying to gather my data from within Nigeria was very, very tactical. So without the intervention, I don't think I would have succeeded in getting it.
We are trained on how to convert from analog to digital age. And that has really impacted so much on us, so much that in my own vision to digitize the local contents of the university. And when I talk of local contents of the university, this includes the research base, and then it includes speeches from our visitor. Take, for instance, convocation speeches, in order to showcase our research activities to the global community, so that we will not just be local champion. For example, I can show you, these are journals from Faculty of Science that were published and sponsored by Tetfund, as you can see. As you can see, sponsored by Tetfund, we have volume 1, we have volume 2, we have volume 3, as you can see them here. And then I have distributed the physical copies to almost all the universities in the country, but that is not enough. Just as I said, we want to showcase our research activities globally. So I am on the process of digitizing this. It's part of the local contents being produced by the university, so that outside world can see what we are doing.
Well, I benefited from the Tetfund intervention to pursue a PhD program in University Putra, Malaysia, in the field of geospatial engineering, application to hydrogeology. PhD program, it's all about exposing you to the rudiments of research. And in the academic cycle, it is popular that you either publish or you perish. So you cannot publish without researching. And then you cannot research without knowing the rudiments of research.
One of the key goals of Tetfund's paradigm shift is to ensure that R&D propels Nigeria into the era of knowledge economy through the triple helix model, which forms a bond between the government, the academia, and the industry when it comes to diagnosing national economic needs, carrying out research to solve those problems, developing new products, processes, and services, and then upscaling those solutions into industrial outputs. How is the Federal University Lokoja preparing to participate in this bold new initiative?
If you look at it carefully, we at the academic level at times tend to look at it that research results emanating from tertiary institutions are not, in most cases, given preference by the government. You discover that research are being conducted, are carried out, at times funded by Tetfund, but the results end up on the table. Some research are supposed to be carried out in its practical terms to have bearing values on the society. But for it to have value on the society, it needed to be taken beyond the level of research to, let's say, carrying a good from raw material form to a finished good. That is what we appear to be lacking. If not, if the level of research being funded by individual and Tetfund is put to adequate use in the country, perhaps most of the problems we are facing today wouldn't have been there.
We are committed to make the country proud, and no regret that they have established this university. We are committed. All our lecturers, we are working, trying to create break records in their different fields. Break record in their different fields, in terms of research outfit, in terms of communities service. I think it's just a matter of time. We are not going to take all these things that we are receiving from Tetfund. We are not going to take it for granted.
Well, in my area of specialization, which the Tetfund have really assisted me to accomplish, and that research I told you about the security aspect of it. It's not only the airport, talking about the banking sector, talking about ATM. What I work on, which is iris, I specialize on iris, this iris, your eyes, iris, because we have a unique iris all over. All human beings, their iris are unique. My own is different from your own, while the mother own is different. So we were able to come up how to import iris into the computer, a database. We call it a database. When you get to the ATM machine, you want to catch money. You don't need to say anything. Just move closer to the machine. The machine will blink and capture your iris and reconcile your iris with the database.
The institute, Mentorship Institute, we're trained to research for Africa, so it's going to benefit Nigeria because I stand as a codestral representative in Nigeria to carry out African research. And besides, I am interested in looking at the problems that could bring Nigeria to a streamline to compete with the international world. Presently, I am interested in issue about the ranking of African institutions, and I'm still digging deep on that. With time, I see myself coming up to help my younger ones, especially in the area of challenging the global world in research area. So I have bet to just go in to grow my capacity to that level, and also help Nigerian younger scholars to come up to compete with the international world, because that is the basis at which the ranking centers on now.
Quite recently, I myself, alongside a mentor, organized a kind of workshop for people outside this system, to expose them to remote sensing and GIS applications. And we have done it once. We are planning to run the second one.
Professor Akinwumi, however, stresses that new institutions, like the one he heads, should be given priority over the more established ones when it comes to Tetfund intervention. According to him, this will enable them to become more competitive and productive. The main functions of higher education and universities are predominantly twofold. One is as educational establishments, and the second as generators of knowledge and technology. As educational establishments, their function is to provide able, self-directed learners that are independent and confident and will go out into society and give to society through leadership and civic duties. As knowledge generators, they are research institutions to provide new knowledge, to change paradigms, to aid society in its development and in meeting new challenges as they come along. The job market is changing dramatically to match the growth of technology and industrialization. This means that jobs are changing. In the wake of that change, there will be an increased demand in jobs that require an advanced understanding of technologies. Now more than ever, it is important to invest in an education that can handle those needs. This is where Tetfund comes in, to ensure that Nigerian tertiary education keeps up with the ever-changing needs of a modern economy. And that is the paradigm shift.